Hello, everyone. After Trump took office, aid to Ukraine faced a threat. Ukraine could be cut off from aid and might even be forced to sit down and negotiate with Russia, potentially losing a lot of territory. Recently, the developments in the war have started to shift, as it seems both Russia and Ukraine are trying to intensify the fighting. If Trump indeed pushes both sides to negotiate, there are only a little over 2 months left. Whichever side gains more victories now will have the upper hand at the negotiation table. So the war is entering a more intense phase. Ukraine recently launched its largest UAV attack on Moscow since Russian President Putin initiated the full-scale war in February 2022. According to Russian media, Russia responded with a record-breaking attack of 145 UAVs on Ukrainian territory. During Ukraine's assault, 3 airports in Moscow had to temporarily close, rerouting flights, and at least 1 person was injured. Russia's Ministry of Defense announced that its air defense system had shot down 70 Ukrainian UAVs, nearly half of which were over Moscow's airspace, with the remainder in Russia's western regions. The General Staff of the Ukrainian military claims success in targeting an ammunition depot near the Russian city of Bryansk. Videos show large explosions at military warehouses, with flames lighting up the night sky. Images on Russian Telegram channels captured scenes of UAVs flying over residential areas, including apartment buildings and parking lots. Ukrainian commentators remarked that the attack on Moscow was retaliation for Russia's major airstrike on November 9th. After Donald Trump's election victory, the Russian Ministry of Defense labeled this UAV attack a terrorist incident, but claimed it successfully thwarted it. At least 36 flights had to be diverted, according to Russia's Transport Authority. Both sides have made significant advancements in UAV technology, with Ukraine establishing a dedicated UAV command and expanding its reach, targeting Russian weapons storage, oil facilities, and air bases hundreds of kilometers within Russian territory. Meanwhile, Russia has begun using fiber-optically controlled UAVs in the Kursk region, which are harder to jam with conventional electronic countermeasures. According to Sina News, the Russia-Ukraine conflict saw its most costly month yet, with 69,000 Ukrainian troops reportedly lost in a single month, and Russia gained territory in Ukraine equivalent to Singapore's area in October. However, this fierce battle also inflicted heavy losses on Russian forces. Victor, an expert at Ukraine's Center for Defense Strategies, pointed out that Russian casualties in October reached a shocking 57,500 personnel. In addition, Russian tanks, armored vehicles, and other heavy weapons have suffered significant losses, likely impacting the combat effectiveness of Russian forces. In the Kursk region, Russian forces have managed to corner Ukrainian forces into a 600-square-kilometer area. This development indicates that Russian forces are approaching their strategic goals, yet they also face substantial challenges. So far, although Russian forces have inflicted heavy losses on Ukraine's main forces, they have also suffered considerable damage. According to the Ukrainian General Staff, Russian forces have lost 9,208 tanks, 18,581 armored vehicles, and 20,150 artillery units. These figures highlight the brutal nature of the war and the immense attrition Russia is experiencing. Notably, T-72 and T-80 tanks, BMP-1 and BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicles, as well as Soviet-era self-propelled and towed artillery, have all been used in significant numbers in the Russia-Ukraine war. Consequently, the protection offered by these vehicles is limited, and when explosions occur, those inside often cannot escape, leading to high casualties. Regarding ammunition supplies, Ukrainian intelligence reports that 60% of Russia's artillery shells now come from a few countries, 10% from Iran, and only 3% from Russian defense factories that are working around the clock. Ukrainian intelligence suggests that Russia's vast Soviet-era stockpiles have been depleted, presenting a severe challenge to Russia's ability to sustain its war effort. Recently, at 7:20 a.m. on November 13th, explosions rang out across cities in Ukraine as a missile attack followed a UAV strike from Russia overnight. Ukraine has been facing nighttime UAV attacks from Russia almost nightly for several weeks. The Ukrainian military reported that multiple missiles were launched from strategic bombers and ballistic missile systems, targeting Kiev. For months, Ukrainian citizens have been living with the constant threat of a major missile assault that could cripple the country's energy system as winter approaches. According to Reuters, many Kyiv residents have lost sleep due to relentless UAV attacks and air raid sirens that echo through the city and on their phones. One resident stated, "I can't sleep, can't think, and rely on energy drinks constantly." Overall, in the coming months, Russia and Ukraine will likely remain locked in a grinding, ongoing war. Meanwhile, in the U.S., Trump recently announced a decision that surprised many people. Specifically, on November 12th, President-elect Donald Trump nominated Pete Hegseth, a Fox News host and veteran of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, as Secretary of Defense, putting him in charge of America's 1.3 million active-duty military personnel. Hegseth's nomination breaks with traditional qualifications for the defense secretary role. He has been a steadfast Trump supporter, defending Trump's interactions with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and advocating the America First agenda to pull U.S. troops out of foreign conflicts and supporting veterans accused of war crimes. Commenting on the new Secretary of Defense, President-elect Donald Trump emphasized, "Pete is tough, smart, and truly believes in America first. With him in charge, America's enemies will take notice. America's military will be great again, and America will never back down." In general, Trump's recent decisions bring more bad news for Ukraine. However, Europe brought Ukraine a new reason for optimism recently. The European Union has proposed a new financial support package worth €55 billion for Ukraine from 2024 to 27.